FM 94, The Dark Halfway Jam is just around the corner. In fact, it starts on Thursday, and it kicks off with the band Finger 11. And on the phone right now, I'm talking with James Black. And first of all, James, thanks so much for joining me. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing absolutely fantastic.
And it sounds like you guys are still at home getting ready to make a little trip this way and all over the place here in the next 3 or 4 days, huh?
Yeah, we're just soaking up a little last bit of home time before a couple weeks of steady travel. And then, yeah, all through August, we're down in the States all over the place doing an acoustic run with a band called 10 Years. So it's a little different pace for us, too. We're going to kind of strip it down and just have acoustic guitars and voice.
That's cool.
So that's going to be cool. But, the show that we're doing this week, these are all big rock shows, man. That's really what we love to do.
Absolutely. In fact, I just was the other day, I talked with Kyle, the drummer of 10 Years. They're also going to be at Halfway Jam. They're going to be there on Saturday at 4 o'clock. So, and you're going to hook up with those guys acoustically. Have you done much acoustic stuff before?
Just sort of one-off here and there, like sometimes at a radio station event or, when we go away, just up in a cabin somewhere, we do a lot of just singing songs and strumming covers and stuff like that. So we actually, after a trip, we had such a good time that we decided to do a show up just near my house here. There's a local bar that we go to. So we went there one night and just put a table on the stage and pulled out a songbook and just did a bunch of acoustic stuff and just sort of like let it flow. We got really drunk and it just was nice and loose. So it's sort of like been orbiting around us, this idea of just kind of like being a little more free form and trying some covers and trying some old songs of our own at the same time. So yeah, we've done it many times, and it usually just it all comes down to if someone has a good voice or not. And Scott on most nights sounds amazing. So
awesome. Let's talk about the band Finger 11, and we were just talking before we started the interview. You guys have been together as a band for over 25 years. That doesn't happen very often. Bands have that kind of longevity. Why do you think that is for you guys?
I don't know. I think a big part of it is that we met as friends first. Like, we're not a band that met like answering an ad.
Yeah.
Or, we're looking for a guitar player or whatever. Like, I met Scott in junior high. And sort of our connection was about music. It wasn't about playing it at first. It was just about what we liked. Sort of like a rivalry of Guns N' Roses versus Iron Maiden kind of thing. Who's the best? And then we just connected on that, and that became sort of the blossom of a friendship. But I think that's why it moves well together through time, is that we were destined to be friends anyway. So it's sort of it's a dual fate kind of thing. It's just mutual respect on top of that, but really a good portion of it is just, it's all based on we like to hang out with each other.
The cool thing is in the last couple of weeks here, I've been interviewing a lot of bands that have been around for a while, veteran bands like yourself, like the Seethers, the 10 Years, Buck Cherry, bands like that. Normally, I interview bands that are up-and-coming bands, and the question I always ask them is, how did you find your members out? And you just mentioned it. You're looking for a band member, and it's on Craigslist or something of all, stuff and that. It wasn't like that back in the early 90s, was it, James?
Well, it was a different thing. Like, if you were to be putting up a post, it would either be in the newspaper or on a bulletin board at a jam space. And in the town that we grew up, Burlington, if someone was going to respond to an ad, then likely you knew the guy anyway. So it was sort of destined to be close-knit because it just was. Like, I don't know, kind of. It's not that Burlington's a small town,
right?
But it's small enough that you know all the kids that are into the same stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It would have been before the internet. Yeah, it would have been just like flyers and newspaper ads and mutual friends and stuff like that.
You have to
which a lot of it. That's how. Like, we were very fortunate when we first started the band in our hometown. There was quite a little scene of other, like, people the exact same age as us in our same mind frame that were starting bands too, and there happened to just be like a scene where there was at least 4 or 5 bands every weekend that like could mix and match and play shows. So we kind of watched it happen all over the place. That it was just like trading cards with some bands. Like, oh, this guy's playing bass with this band now because this guy's better suited for this band and whatever. It was kind of neat to watch, but way more organic, I guess, than nowadays. You have a longer reach. You could probably find more refined players that are outside of your backyard.
Right. Let me ask you this question right away then, and I've asked it with some of the other veteran bands. The state of rock today, what is your take on the state of rock today than what it was when you were coming up in the ranks of rock and roll?
Well, I guess it's less important on a whole, like that scene that I'm talking about when there was all, like, everybody was starting a band, and it wasn't just because it seemed like a convenient way of life. It was like, I don't know, music had grabbed everyone, like Nirvana, Chili Peppers, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. Like, there was a weird, not to reduce it to like a John Hughes high school hierarchy, but that was my viewpoint at the time, was like everyone listened to music all together. It became a big sweeping thing of like, music was always around here and there, but it became super, super important for our whole generation right at that time. And so nowadays, I think it's important for the people who really got struck by it, but the mass agreement, like that's the flavor this year or whatever, it's not aligned the same as it used to. So I think you wait for it to come back around. Every once in a while there'll be a song that just resonates the right kind of treble through everybody. But I don't know. I think rock and roll is about rebellion, and I think when it becomes too stationary, there's nothing to rebel against it. So you have to just turn against it, walk away from it.
Gotcha.
Until the cliches become rebellious again, you know?
Right, absolutely.
It's hard to be inside the bubble and be objective about it, because I love rock and roll, you know? It's
right.
Thing, but eventually it's sort of like anything. It burns itself out and has to condense and then reignite and do it all again. So I'm looking for something to reignite rock and roll, like that makes me like feel like the wheels are going to fall off a bike kind of thing. Like, oh, this song may not even get to the end. It's just so barely keeping it together because it's, you know, like there's so much energy inside it. I don't know what that is, but when I hear it, I know it just unlocks something in me. So I think that's kind of what rock and roll has to have. It has to have mistakes. It has to have big balls. It has to be offensive. It's got to be all that stuff.
Right, right. Is there anybody right now, I guess, currently that's come out that it kind of maybe makes your head go that way and go, oh yeah, that's a band that maybe has a chance? Or, you know, well, I guess, what do you look at that as current bands coming up right now? I
think in like recent times, I get turned on more by the more alternative stuff, like Alt J or Tame Impala or something like that. Or there's this band Morgan Delt. It's like very psychedelic kind of stuff. Okay. I like that, and it may be a bit of a obvious throwback to the '60s stuff, but I love that kind of stuff. And then, like, as far as the big personas, like Jack White, he does it for me as far as like he feels like a real rock and roll character, and he's a great, amazing guitar player on top of having all the, I don't know, it just always feels handmade and scratchy, and I just believe it, even if it's all a big show.
Right.
I think that's part of the thing too. Like, it's got to be entertaining and full of itself. You know, that's rock and roll too.
We're talking with James Black, the lead guitarist of the band Finger 11. You grew up in Canada. What was it like as a kid growing up in Canada? And the big question everybody asks, did you play hockey, eh?
You know what? I was raised by British parents, so I'm a soccer kid. I cannot skate. The feeling of skating is so painful to me. There's nothing about it that I enjoy. And I don't really watch hockey that much. So as far as a Canadian, I may be a bit of a disappointment to some.
Hey, you know, the one thing is, you know, James, the big...
But I love beer.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Almost as much as to make up for not liking hockey at all, I overcompensate with my love of beer.
A little strange brew, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
I got.
That's the thing. The secret weapon up here is comedy.
It has to be in the wintertime, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
And we get
one of those weird
we get that.
tones.
Yeah, we get that down here a little bit in Minnesota because we have some.
Oh, for sure.
We have weather like you. I mean, I'm sure it's pretty much similar for the most part.
Oh, it very much so. Very much. Yeah. There's quite a parallel actually when we're there. You feel akin to being home.
One thing I wanted to ask about you, and I'm sure you get asked this question all the time, but the band name Finger 11, how did that all come about, and what really is the meaning behind it? I guess I don't even know what it is.
Well, there was a song, we were tracking the first Finger 11 record, and there was a song on the sort of working through the process that was called Thin Spirits. And in the song there was a lyric about Finger 11 pointing the other way. And it just sort of jumped out in the control room. Like, when we're a young band jamming in this jam space, you're not really listening to everyone. Like, I didn't really know what Scott was saying until we got to the studio on most of the songs. So you hear this like Finger 11, what is that? And so he was referring to like a compass, almost like an extra finger that would point to like absolute truth or a true north, despite wherever the rest of you is deciding to go, kind of thing.
Right.
Like a conscious of the right decision. And at the time, we were looking for a name, and we had a record deal under a different name, and we just had midstream decided, you know what, we're going to change our name, and we have a different philosophy about it. So it just felt like nobody thought that was a good idea except for us, and the name itself meant, don't listen to anyone else, just follow what you know is a good decision. So it seemed to be a good philosophy to run the band by, and then that's really kind of what it means. It's just listen to whatever that thing is in you that a lot of times you'd love to ignore it, actually, but that just knows the right way.
Right. Gotcha. And of course, you guys started out back in the early 90s, and it took a little bit for you guys to be, I guess, known here in the States. What really, I guess, put you guys over the edge to start getting more notoriety here in the United States?
I think getting a record deal down in the States and not being sort of an import from Canada, that changed things because our home base became New York City as our label and stuff. And then we got on some big tours that in the States, there was like Creed, let's say, was a big band that in Canada kind of didn't really have a sense of it, but in the States was just enormous. And here we were, like, the second signing on the same label, and they were just like, here, come down to the States and play for 20,000 people a night. We're like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So I think that helped. But then ultimately the song One Thing was just one of those songs that opened doors that no amount of effort or persistence was going to open. And then Paralyzer after that was a whole other thing with just like the occasional good song along a hard-working career, I guess. Really predict it or design it or anything. It was just sort of like, well, we could have been just it all could have gone a different way if it weren't for One Thing, and then it all could have gone a different way if it weren't for Paralyzer. So.
And of course, you guys obviously are known for those two songs, but you have many other songs in your arsenal.
Oh, for sure. I think that's the weird thing about the whole. Whenever a song gets singled out, and I know I'm the guy that's singling it out in terms of this story, but you feel like almost more passionate about some other songs that just you think, oh my God, this is going to knock everybody out, and
right.
Just, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, what? But in a way, it means you're doing it for the right reason because you really thought you were throwing a knockout punch, even whether it was or not.
Right.
Well, that's up to fate, kind of thing. So
I love Paralyzer, love One Thing, but that song that I really like is Whatever Doesn't Kill Me. I think I love that
cool,
song.
Yeah.
And I don't know what song do you actually enjoy playing out on stage?
I definitely love playing Paralyzer. As far as a guitar player,
yeah,
and a riff that comes along that you're like, oh, I would look up the tabs for that and learn it. Like that's one that's fun. So if I was in a cover band, I would probably even enjoy playing that song, having had nothing to do with it. But then there's a new song called "Come On Oblivion" that's a longer. It ends up being about a 10-minute song live, and that's just so fun because it's different every night, but it's just so sprawling, and it's got this like Floyd-y moments that I don't know. I suppose they really define my musical taste. Really get to let loose and be psychedelic.
And that's the next question I was going to kind of lead into. You kind of mentioned, newer song here. What's kind of the horizon here for Finger 11? What are you guys in the plans of doing here?
I think we're just making more music and like putting it out as it comes along. Like I think the last record, Five Crooked Lines, we've come to the end of a record deal, and now we're independent artists, and we've got a whole other agenda now. So I think Five Crooked Lines, I think it was a great return for us to like some aggressive rock and roll.
Right.
That I think maybe, I don't know if everyone in the world wants to hear aggressive rock and roll right now, or we just don't, maybe not, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't know that they would like it because of, I don't know, either timing or like Paralyzer or one thing. Like you over the course of history, you become flavored in different ways. But really, we're just we just like heavy rock. That's what we like, guitar riffs.
Right.
So as tangents come out, and you build a career on an acoustic song and a dancey song, but really we just like big riffs. So that's what this record is, just a return to that. Like that's what we always loved. So let's impress ourselves with it. And so I think it's just like high energy, great steamroller riff rock.
One thing, is it a blessing or is it a curse sometimes to have success and name recognition in the industry?
I don't know. I mean, if I look at it long enough, I would say it's all a blessing. Like
right.
No negative has come of it, only opportunities. I think maybe you just get to look at, you just realize how fast things happen and how fleeting things happen, and you learn big lessons of like, maybe I would have done this or could have done this or whatever. But I think those are things that you're going to learn anyway. But yeah, I don't know. For the most part, I would say success, until it like starts to make you feel like maybe you think you know what you're doing. I'd say like you could kind of get to that point where if you have enough success, you think you're in control of why it's succeeding. And I think that's a big folly that you don't, because you're at the mercy of everyone else's ears.
Right, right.
So I think that's a big trick that I think multiple successes can bring with it, kind of thing. And, I don't know.
The one thing that I've noticed over the years here, and of course you go back to all the way to the early 90s, Canada seems to be putting out a lot more rock artists over the last 10 to 15 years. Any reason for that maybe? Because it wasn't as big maybe back in the 90s for at least rock-wise coming out, at least that I know of for Canada. But it seems like you're seeing...
It definitely evolved music-wise. Like it was a little more... not necessarily roots, but like kind of more bar rock
kind
of sound until, I don't know, I suppose a few bands kind of succeeded enough to open the gates for it. Maybe, I think perhaps we probably had a bit to do with it. A band called Billy Talent, 3 Days Grace. I don't know, yeah, like as far as that, like just big guitar rock kind of thing. Nickelback, of course. Like, I don't know, there's just things that like opened the floodgates, and then all of a sudden it seemed like, I'm going to guess somebody somewhere high up thought, oh, you can really succeed with this, so let's sign a bunch of rock bands. And the lucky rock bands that got in on that, like, they got to have a career.
Right. And it's not all glamorous, is it either, James, when it comes to being a rock star, is it?
I suppose it depends on what the glamour of it is for you. Like, it's definitely, I mean, the way I'm going about my journey, it's not glamorous like Tommy Lee glamorous. Limousines and like honking a boat horn with my donk and a sex tape, but like it's glamorous in a way that I like the I'm doomed to sort of love the starving artist
Right.
ideal and aesthetic and everything about it. Like, even like I don't know. I love the mad scientist, experimental phase of everything.
Right.
So I love it. It's glamorous to me because it always seems to be an upheaval.
Very cool. Very cool. We're talking to James Black, lead guitarist of the band Finger 11. Let's talk about you being here on Thursday. It's just a couple days away. You'll be rocking at a Halfway Jam, an outdoor festival. Do you guys enjoy playing outdoor festivals?
I'm just laughing. Is it called Outdoor Festival?
No, it's called Halfway Jam, but I just
okay.
I made my own lingo out of it. It's an outdoor festival.
I thought, because I was going to laugh at myself, because earlier I was like, is it outdoors? I was like, if it's called Outdoor Festival and I didn't know that, to the listeners, I'm going to seem like way out there.
No.
But no, okay.
It's called
But
Halfway
man,
Jam.
It's going to be awesome. Like this summer, like outdoor festivals, and just everything about the spirit of it is just awesome. We're just loving being out there doing it. So, this Thursday it's going to be amazing.
And what should they expect? And of course, you're opening the show. You're opening the whole festival.
Oh,
so
okay.
you got some big shoes.
Usually is there other bands playing on the bill?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You said 10 years.
Yep. The night you're there,
we go on first of the whole day.
Yep, you go on the first, and after that it'll be Candlebox, and then Soul Asylum, and it'll also be Theory of a Dead Man, another Canadian band for you.
Oh yeah. It'll be good to see those guys for sure.
It must be
it'll be awesome. So that when we go on early, that means that the set's probably shorter, but we just pack it full of like high energy. So there's no, I don't know, we almost don't pace ourselves. It's like we're going out for like a 1-round fight.
So what you're basically saying is you're going to be dripping wet after you're done.
Oh, for sure. That's kind of a given for me anyway.
So everybody's got to look for any special things you might have planned or anything you're going to do up there that you can think of, or you're in the.
I don't know. We're at a place where we kind of play the songs a little differently every night, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're going to stop in the middle of a song and do like a Billy Joel medley. Like, it's not that spontaneous, but
okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you'll hear. If you like Finger 11, I think you'll be well satisfied. And if you don't know Finger 11, I bet you'll hear it and go, "Oh, I know maybe like 4 or 5 of those songs."
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I know Central Minnesota is looking forward to having Finger 11 show up. I know Halfway Jam is too. And we wish you safe travels down here, and we'll check you out on Thursday.
Yeah, thanks, man. Maybe you can quicken up my talking. I just ramble. Long form.
That's all right. Thanks so much for joining me, James, again.
All right, man. Yeah, thank you.
That is James. Yeah, that's James Black. He's the guitarist. He's from the band Finger 11. They're going to be opening the stage. They're going to be opening the festival, Halfway Jam, coming up this Thursday. Make sure to check them out.